Hello, I am attorney Masah SamForay, founder of the Foray Firm with offices in Houston and in Chicago. And I am back again to talk to you about all things immigration. So today we're going to talk about what happens if you are denied entry at the airport or at the border. So in a previous interview, I went into a little bit more detail about what the questions that you should expect once you get to the border. And that could be a land border, say the US-Mexico border, or it could be at any international airport. In any event, I went into detail. So I'm not going to talk about the questions that you should expect. This topic is about what happens if you fail this secondary interview. So remember, there are multiple steps, multiple barriers of entry to get to the United States. So first step is at your consulate or your embassy in your country, you went for a visa application interview, you were interviewed by the consular officer and you received the visa. Then you got on a plane or you got in your car from Canada or Mexico and you drove here and now you are at a border. Second step in the process is that you have to get through customs. So when you go through the customs line, there are 2 to 3 minutes, very quick, rapid fire, sort of easy questions that you should be readily able to answer. If you raise any suspicions, and one example that I gave in the prior video is that, let's say you passed through a country that the United States finds to be suspicious in September 11th. We'll use Iran as an example. And so let's say you pass through a country that the United States, sort of finds to be a bit suspicious, and then you get called in for a secondary interview in the private room. If you get called in for the secondary interview in the private room, well, they'll be asking you any manner of follow-up questions, looking through your social media. They're going to be looking through your prior immigration records, so on and so forth, and you do not pass. Then this is what happens if you do not make it through. If you do not make it through, there will be a couple of different options that the Border Patrol officer or the Customs officer will tell you. So the Customs and Border Patrol officer can do one of any 4 options. Number 1, they could send you back to your country immediately on the next flight, meaning you would literally be sitting in the airport or sitting, well, in this example we use at the airport. You would literally be sitting in the airport terminal waiting for the next flight to go back to your country. Number 2, they can order the expedited removal from the country. Again, if a Customs or Border Patrol officer orders the expedited removal of you from the United States, that could automatically trigger a 5-year bar to entry into the United States. Number 3, they could allow you to leave the airport, but then send you a notice to appear for court and for further proceedings in front of an immigration court. Or number 4, if the threat is too serious, they could actually send you immediately into detention. And that again would be based on perhaps your criminal history or an aggravated immigration background history. And so just know that if you are ordered into detention because the threat is so serious, you're definitely going to want to reach out immediately to an immigration officer. And regardless of which one of these steps occurs, be it step 1, 2, 3, or 4, make sure that you keep the records, because just because you are not allowed entry after this secondary inspection, and just because you are sent back to your country either expeditiously on the next flight or after a notice to appear, it doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot ever reapply in the future to come back to the United States. Quite the contrary. So make sure you keep the records and make sure you know exactly what happened when you arrived at the border, so that you can be more successful the next time around. I hope that this was helpful, and we'll see you next time.